Trust me, you're all better off. We have a little bit of housekeeping before we start the meeting. First off, we want to review the meeting minutes from our February meeting, which was on February 10th. Panel members in attendance, are there any questions regarding the meeting minutes? If not, does anyone want to make a motion to approve?
John, this is Cecily. I'll make a motion to approve.
And second?
Second, this is Matt.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Cecily. All in favor to approve the meeting minutes as written?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
John,
opposed?
John, and I apologize. I just want to remind everyone that this meeting is recorded. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Okay, thank you, Marta. Okay, before we start the meeting, here's our opening statement. The design review panel was created by the Baltimore County Council with Title IV, Subtitle 2, Part 1, Sections 32-4, 203 and 32-4, 204. The DRP was established to encourage design excellence and shall act in a consulting and advisory capacity to the agencies that are involved in the process for reviewing development plans. The objectives for the design review panel review includes building design, spatial, visual, functional relationships to various characteristics of the site, as well as surrounding features of the site. In carrying out its duties, the DRP utilizes guidelines, plans, and architectural principles in the Comprehensive Manual for Development Policies and/or Master Plans, as well as other guidelines and regulations adopted into law. Certain areas of the county were designated by the County Council to require review by the DRP. The panel will provide a technical review of the proposed project. I should note that issues relative to zoning, setback relief, environmental and stormwater management, and traffic regulations do not fall under the purview of the DRP and are regulated through the appropriate agencies responsible for those aspects of the development review process. Our panel consists of 9 members. All are professionals with practical experience in the matters of building and site design. For the purpose of making recommendations on a particular project, 3 members shall constitute a quorum. The attendance and comments of each member from this evening's meeting will be recorded in the minutes. The minutes are available as an open record and available along with all documents submitted by the applicant to the panel. There will be an opportunity for community to offer input during the public comment portion of the meeting following each presentation. During the public input portion, if you want to speak, please use the chat feature and let county staff know that you want to speak for the particular project. These comments will also be included in the written record of the meeting. When a speaker is called upon to speak, keep your comments focused on design perspectives within your allotted 2 minutes of time. The panel's recommendations are advisory on the hearing officer and the various county agencies. And with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to our first project tonight, which is 600 Reisterstown Road. This is a follow-up submission. The building portion of the project was approved at a prior meeting, and this resubmittal is focusing on the garage and landscaping for the project. With that, I'll turn it over to our presenter.
All right, Mr. DeMema, thank you for that synopsis. You saved me a few words because I was going to start with those statements as well. But you're correct. We are here tonight for the site plan and landscape plan, essentially, to show how we have addressed comments from the January 13th DRP meeting. So some of these slides are repetitive from the first from that previous meeting, so we can start to scroll through those, Marta, if you'd like. The first, that's the cover sheet. Next page is the project description, which we probably don't need to rehash unless somebody wants to talk about the project description and the existing conditions.
Yeah,
Um,
Marty, I think we can go directly to the site plan.
Yeah, that would be slide 9 is existing conditions, 10 would be proposed conditions in a black and white version. It probably would make sense to, just because the visuals of the black and white on this scale are somewhat difficult to see. Let's go to the next page. Now that shows also the landscape improvements around the site, and it's also in black and white, and again, somewhat difficult to read. So we'll go to the rendered versions, which are the next 2 slides, I believe, Martha. Okay, so this is the rendered landscape plan. And what we've done here to address the comments are reflected on this plan. We showed the tree pits along Reisterstown Road. There's 4 along the frontage of Reisterstown Road. There's a new tree pit being installed on Irving Place, which is at the top of the page. And then the landscaping that we're showing between the garage, the new garage building, and Irving Place, in the green strip between the sidewalk along Irving Place and the garage building, is some large trees and shrubs and some lawn area there as well. Then moving down to the Milford Mill Road frontage, as you get past the red brick area outside of the new space that's going to be set up on the end of the building there, there's a small shrub area that we included. And then there are some landscape areas along the parking area that where we're going to add some trees and some shrubs along there to address up those frontages. And then along the properties to the left of the page, we're adding some small shrubs and then some larger shrubs up along the, as you head towards Irving Place, to try to screen the garage structure from the neighboring properties in the space that we have available. The red areas shown on the plan are brick areas, and also at the entrances on Irving and Milford Mill is a proposed stamped concrete in a similar color to the brick that's going to also be along Reisterstown Road for the surrounding the tree pits, and also the border along the curb that runs along Reisterstown Road. So that's a synopsis of the landscape updates that we've done to dress up the the facades and the frontages along the roads. The next slide, Martha, is a enlargement of the Reisterstown Road frontage. Essentially, it makes it a little bit easier to see a bench that we've added at the sidewalk connection from the new addition in the back of the existing building. As it comes towards Milford Mill Road, there's a new bench tucked right in the corner there at where the sidewalks come together. We've also added several trash receptacles, which are shown in the small bluish dot. We've added some light poles, which are also shown on this exhibit. They're in a greenish dot. There's 3 poles proposed, or 3 light poles proposed along the frontage of the building. They basically will also have one trash receptacle on the Irving Place side, as you can see in that bluish dot up there at the top of the sheet towards the intersection. We also have a bike rack shown along Reisterstown Road. It's between the first and second tree as you start at Milford Mill and walk towards the north of the page. There's a bike rack situated in there. And again, now that Marta's blown it up a little bit, you might be able to see easier the trash receptacles, the light poles that are interspersed with the tree pits, and the bike rack that we fit in there as well. Felt that alignment of the light poles was in keeping with the Pikesville Commercial Revitalization Guidelines of spacing the poles 60 feet apart. We just tried to provide enough trash receptacles that we felt were enough for the amount of foot traffic that might be in this area. And finally, the tree pits were, they were presented before. What this picture is just to help see them better and indicate that those tree pits will be flush with grade so that there's no trip hazard, and they will be bordered with a brick banding to give it some relief along the foot traffic way. So that's essentially the updated rendered landscape plan. The next page, Martha, will show the key for the landscape plan on the left and an example of the street light pole and fixture that we're intending to provide. This sheet also includes the planning calculations that show that the planning units provided exceed the planning units required, which is typically what we would do in our conversations with Jim Herman, the county's landscape architect, as we move from schematic to landscape. That's a number that he's going to be looking at to make sure that we meet. Next slide starts to incorporate the elevations of the garage, and these are the north and south elevations. Again, this was rendered to try as best as we could to indicate the coloring of the concrete, which is going to be painted a soft gray to try and match as best we can with the existing building facade and the coloring of the building itself. So this elevation shows the stair towers, which will have some glass in them, and also shows a lot of locations for the wall sconces for the lighting. And I think, Marta, it might be a good time to bring in Jeff so he could talk about the lighting and how that's been shown and reflected on these elevations, and also the east and west ones, which are on another slide.
So the exterior wall sconces that are on this north and south elevation are going to be sconces that match those that are being placed on the building facade. There are going to be 4 on the north elevation shown in that top view, and then there are 4 on the south elevation as well. If you go to, and we are painting, as Stu said, we're painting this to match the stone of the new stone at the base of the office building. And we've identified here on the slide 2 possible paint systems that would be approved. They both have 10-year warranties. We've used them both on many exposed concrete facades over the years, and they've all performed very well. If you go to the next slide, Marta. This is the typical exterior wall section, showing that we have 8-inch solid concrete barrier walls that are 42 inches high, located at each level. The corners of the concrete elements are all going to be chamfered, and we have 3/4 inch reveals, throughout the elevations that are help break up the flat concrete surfaces. Next slide. And then this is the top slide, obviously, is a west elevation, which is along the adjacent properties. Here we have a solid concrete wall on the right half to comply with code because that is so close to the property line. The bottom slide is the east elevation of the garage, and this upper framing that you see is occurs about 28 feet offset from the face of the office building. And you can see we're providing 2 light poles that are on the top of the garage, located about 3rd points. And then there are also wall sconces on these elevations as well. Unfortunately, they end up pretty small in these images, but there are 6 on the west elevation located at 11 feet above grade. And then there are going to be 5 on the east elevation that'll be 12 feet above grade. Unfortunately, though, the labeling that we used on this slide does not match the material slides. So maybe, Marta, if you could go 3 slides ahead, I can identify those sconces. So here, the sconce shown in that upper right corner is a sconce that's going on the office building, but that'll also be used on the north and south elevation of the parking garage. And the one to the left of it, that WDGE2, is the sconce that's being provided on the garage east elevation, facing the office building. The one that's below that, the tall rectangular sconce, is only being used on the office building and is not part of the garage at all. And then the one to the right, the WSR fixture, that's located on the west elevation of the garage and will also be used interior at the tops of the stair towers. You could go back 2 slides now, Marta. So these are the proposed floor plans. The garage is primarily an open air garage, except for the lower level, which is mechanically exhausted. And so that bottom left image is the lower level plan. The right half of that parking is all underneath the existing office building. That parking space is all existing and we're just reusing that space. The ramp is on the far left of that parking area that takes you up to the ground level, where we have 61 parking spaces, which is that middle image. And then the right image is the upper level, where we have another 44 parking spaces. One of the staff review comments was questioning whether or not there would be any additional signage provided other than the directional arrows that were shown on these plans. And of course, the answer to that is yes, there will be. We intend to have a signage package, that'll provide directional signage for exiting, right turn only or left turn only signs that kind of are coordinated with these arrows that are marked on the plans. There would also be a stop signage for where the office lobby main entrance into this garage, where pedestrians will be coming across the ground floor and entering into it. So there'll be a stop sign at that drive aisle. And of course, other signs that just kind of point people to the direction of the lobby or the stair towers and indicating whether or not you'll be, exiting onto Slade Avenue or into Irving Place. But the details for all that signage has not yet been developed. Next slide. I guess is back. I don't know, back to you, Stu, for you can talk about exterior lighting.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, this is a lighting photometric based on the lighting packages that Jeff went through on the building and on the garage to indicate that we are not throwing a lot of foot candles of lighting into the public right of way or the neighboring properties to the west. This is also something that will be presented to Jim Herman as part of our landscape and lighting plan package as we move through the review cycles for schematic and final landscape plan approval. Next slide, I think we kind of went through with Jeff, probably and then the next slide after that is, again, it's just the building materials, lighting kind of shown on the same page. This is a key for the other documents for treatments of the wall and paint to match items that we to provide. Next slide, Martha, is some details of the signage. I know there was some comment about how that was going to look, how it was going to be anchored to the wall and things of that nature. So there's some examples of what I think it's going to be, which is that metal pinned letter signs per the Pikesville commercial revitalization guidelines. We're trying to follow those guidelines with the signage that's going to be mounted for the users. There will be several along the Reisterstown Road frontage. I guess next slide, Martha, is a detail of the low wall. It's an elevation and a section. These walls are going to be installed on either end of the proposed parking area that is adjacent to the building addition, which is in the back of the existing building or the west side. This is something that was requested as well at the previous meeting. And we're presenting this as a 42-inch high low wall, masonry wall, to again provide a screening of that parking area to the adjoining properties. Next, Martha, is our dumpster enclosure detail. We're proposing a board-on-board dumpster enclosure. It'll be encircled on 3 sides with board-on-board and a gate in the front, which will face Irving Place, and a concrete pad in front of it connecting the Irving Place to the dumpster location. That's a pretty typical detail for a dumpster, especially of this size, dumpster enclosure, especially of this size, to use the board-on-board option. and it'll be just a natural wood color. Next slide, which I think is our last slide, is just a detail of the concrete sidewalk that will be employed on private property, all within the site. It will be a minimum of 4 inches of mix number 2, MSHA mix number 2 concrete with 2% cross slopes to promote drainage. Sidewalks outside, within the public right of way that need to be repaired, replaced, will be in accordance with the standard county design plate R19 for public sidewalks, which has a slightly thicker requirement. I believe it's 5 inches on stone. I believe that is our last slide, so I will turn it back to you, Mr. DeMema, for comments and questions.
Thank you very much. Marta, do we have anyone signed up for the community input portion of this presentation?
We have here Mr. Alan Zuckerberg. He has several questions he sent to me in chat, but I will try to unmute him. Maybe he can ask all of these questions. Mr. Zuckerberg, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
So you can speak now, this is time for questions. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So my first question is, because of the history of this building and nothing was done of any substance since the last time DRP approval was given, does the DRP have authority to revoke its approval if there is no substantive shovel in the ground, so to speak, by a certain period of time?
This is Jennifer Nugent. I'm Chief of Development Review. I can speak to that question if that's okay, Mr. DeMena.
Please do.
There is no statute of limitation on DRP review.
All right,
There's
my
no
next,
provision in the code.
I'm sorry, is someone else speaking? If not, my next question is, will I believe the owner has agreed to remove the changing lighted sign. I just want to make sure that if that's the case, that his agreement includes not replacing it, not replacing it with a changing lighted sign. That would be, in our opinion, against the design guidelines. I don't know if the developer's online here, the owner is in the meeting, but certainly would like the DRP. It's an 18-foot high changing lighted sign. We opposed it the last time. Now I understand that the owner is consenting to remove it.
Yeah, Alan, this is Stuart. Yes, the existing sign that's there today is being removed. It is not being replaced.
Okay, great. And also, is the dumpster going to be sufficiently covered so that it does not show from the road?
The dumpster enclosure board-on-board fence will be 6 feet tall. The typical dumpsters that would sit inside of that dumpster, you should not be able to see it unless you stand right up next to the enclosure to look and try to peek over top of the boards themselves. It should not be visible unless you're very close to it or up above it in some way, like on an upper level of a building next door or something of that nature. But no, you should not be able to see the actual dumpster when the enclosure is closed.
Okay, thanks, Stu. And then one other question, and that was, I thought, I came in a few minutes late, I believe, and I thought I heard something about turning onto the roadways. Was that addressed? And if so, what was the result?
Well, we did discuss signage that is going to be placed within the garage itself to help guide users to either Irving Place or to Milford Mill to exit the property to get to either Milford Mill or Reisterstown Road ultimately. That signage package, I believe Jeff mentioned, was not fully developed yet, but we are going to be providing it in addition to the pavement markings. Hopefully that will satisfy that.
Does the DRP have any authority to recommend to the county no left turn coming out of Irving Place? Mr. Chair, do you know, or Marta or whoever?
That would be a question that should be referred to staff. Jennifer, Marta.
I'm sorry, what was the question? I was a little chopped up.
Do you have the authority, or can you recommend a no left turn on Irving Place? Not just for coming out of the garage on Irving Place, but for anybody coming out of Irving Place, not to make a left turn onto Reisterstown Road, because that means you have to cross southbound traffic.
Well, that gets a little tricky. That gets into traffic engineering issues, and Reisterstown Road is a state road. They're gonna have the authority, and when, I mean, we can make it the recommendation, but where it goes from there, Stuart, do you all have to come to the DRC on a development plan? I can't remember.
Yes, we will have to come to the DRC. I believe we will.
Okay, so Mr. Zuckerberg, I would imagine that DPW would make a statement at the DRC about those types of issues.
Okay, so the Development Review Committee, I don't believe that we have the ability to speak at that meeting. So I guess my question is, can planning bring it up at that meeting?
Planning can bring it up at the meeting, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all my questions. I appreciate your time.
All right.
Thank you very much. Marta, is there anyone else signed up to speak?
I don't see any other questions. Emre, Brett, Jan, did we receive any questions?
Okay.
This is Emery, and I think the owner was left some message on the chat to respond to Mr. Zimmerger's questions. Oh, he said
He
he
said
doesn't need
there's
to
no
speak.
need to speak. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Thank you all. With that, we'll begin having the panel. We'll start with Ms. Bedwell.
Excuse me, John, can we read our staff report?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jumping the gun here.
That's okay. We prepared our staff report based on the comprehensive manual of development policies, Pikeville revitalization plan, Pikeville commercial revitalization guidelines. Can you hear me okay? Can all hear me okay?
Yes.
If you don't need to speak, could you please mute yourselves?
And I'll try to mute everyone also. And also on we reviewed a project based on Baldwin County landscape manual. Can you hear me okay? I'm sorry.
Can hear you.
Okay. So in regards to site design, staff recommends approval of the site design. In regards to the form and image, staff recommends approval. In regards to open space and landscape design, staff recommends approval of the open space and landscape design subject to the following conditions. Provide seating and bike racks along Reisterstown Road and indicate their location on the plan, includes details and/or images. Provide a living green wall on the north, south, and west elevations of the proposed garage. In regards to street parking and circulation, staff recommends approval, and we have one condition: label materials of the proposed crosswalks on the plan. In regards to signage and lighting, staff recommends approval of the signage and lighting subject to the following conditions. Number one, clarify if there is any additional directional signage in addition to those that are painted on the floor, include stop signs and turn signs. Number two, wall sconces LT2 are clearly labeled on the north and south elevations. Clarify if there are any light fixtures installed on the west and east elevations, and if so, label them. Number 3, clarify if both and different type of light fixtures that are provided on page 20 and 21 of the presentation are installed in the parking garage, and if so, indicate their location on the plan. And in terms of architectural design, staff defers approval of the architectural design to the design review process. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Marta. With that, the panel will begin to go over their comments, if any. Ms. Bedwell?
Yes, so I just have, I think the plantings, the amount of plantings are good. I'm not sure if I saw what the plantings are called out as, what species. Is that material that's included in the package? I don't think I saw that.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, this is Sally Molina. I'm the landscape architect. And I think there was one sheet that called out what the material is. It's still a schematic, but I think I'll probably be using black gum, Nyssa sylvatica, along the Irving Place side. Along the street frontage, Carpinus, the fastigiata, the upright Carpinus, and shrubs. I just wanted to point out along Reisterstown Road, if you've seen the existing conditions there, they're like, I don't know whether they're 4 or 5 foot little boxes with a few dead trees in them. We're providing a 5 foot by 10 foot planting beds, so trees should survive a whole lot better. The shrubs screening will be Manhattan euonymus. It's hardy, it's evergreen, should last. And also Itea, Little Henry in front of that, along to buffer the facility, the office buildings to the east, I believe, it's on the east side. I have would probably use green giant, arborvitae, and I think I was calling out leatherleaf viburnums where the dumpster is, and probably where there's hardly any room at Milford Mill along that edge. Probably keep the euonymus, the Manhattan euonymus.
Okay, thank you. I think you answered my question. So the street trees on Reisterstown, those 4 are all being replaced, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Good, okay. That was my primary concern, and just that you're using native adaptive species and that the trees are varying per street. So there isn't, you know, a monoculture, and they relate to what's, I don't know what else is on those streets, but I'm guessing you picked a variety to represent. Not much, okay, so coordinated as much as possible using native adaptive species. That, I mean, I think my comments last time were for the architecture, which passed. I'm going to turn it over to my other colleagues to talk through the site plan. The lighting looks good to me, coordinated with the building, so no concerns there for me.
Thank you, Cecily. Mr. D'Amico.
Okay. I don't have much. I have, I noticed the light, 2 of the light poles on Reisterstown Road look like they're right within the tree canopy. I don't know if maybe those should be, if I'm reading that correctly. You might want to space those out a little bit. And then the trash receptacles are kind of right in the middle of the sidewalk. It might be better if they were up against the tree pit or against a building or somewhere where they're not right in the middle of the sidewalk. If I'm reading those blue dots correctly, or yellow dots. Then the only other comment I had would be the staff report suggests a green living wall on the garage. Do you want to talk about that? Is that something you're prepared to do, or is there an alternative to that?
Well, speaking, my perspective is I don't believe we would be doing that. And I don't think the owner would probably want to do that. I think the trees will effectively do the screening job. Stuart, I don't know, somebody else have something to add?
Yeah, the only thing I would just reiterate what you just said. I don't know if the green wall was something that the owner was ready to provide. It could be a discussion again with Jim Herman as part of the landscape plans as we move forward. Not sure exactly where that's headed.
What are the shrubs against the garage? Is that the Manhattan euonymus?
Yes.
And how tall will those get?
Well, they could get really tall if you don't trim them. They could get 6, 7, 8 feet tall if you let them grow.
Okay. That's all from me, John. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Ms. Ra?
Hi, good evening. Can you see me? Okay, yeah, it's good to see a lot of the issues that we talked about last time addressed, including improving the pedestrian experience a little bit more with the vegetation and the garden walls. I hope that the living wall will be installed because I think it would really help not just with the pedestrian experience, but with air quality and just general screening. I have one question about the photometric plan, if you don't mind scrolling over to that slide about the lighting levels in the parking lot. So, my first question was going to be about the units because I didn't see the units on the plan, but I think you said it's just foot candle, so I'm assuming it's average foot candle for the.
Yeah, that's correct. It's the foot candle levels that are shown on the photometric. It's slide 19, Marta. Just if you need a number for that.
So I appreciate that the lighting levels are low enough that it's not going to bleed out to the neighborhood, but I think it's too dark now actually because the lowest numbers are at like 0.1. As you know, IES recommended for small parking lots, commercial is 0.5. And in practicality, 0.25 is pretty much the lowest you should go, really. So I would really highly recommend that you look at making it slightly brighter, especially for the ones in the perimeter, where it's logging at 0.1. I think it's too dark. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
We can absolutely look at that. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Do you have any additional comment?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Matt Renault?
Hey, John, I'm going to apologize in advance. I've got a power and internet outage here, so I'm going to do my best to provide comments on what I've seen. I think the panels hit most of my comments. I do feel strongly about the screening on the garage as well. I think it might be a little more visible even with the vegetation that's proposed there. So I think some ideas for mitigating that would be important. And I just wanted to hear more about the 5-foot space between the office building and the garage. Are there any treatments or other amenities proposed there just to kind of warm that space up a bit?
Okay. Does the developer want to respond to his comment at this time, or should we just keep moving on to the next person?
This is Stu. Let's move on to the next person, and I'll maybe come back to that.
Okay, very good. Mr. Yusufero.
Hi, good evening. I would like to say that I think the applicant made some great progress over these 2 months, and I can fully understand the rendering. I think it looks nice, and I think the additions of the landscaping was much needed. In terms of the green living wall that staff made a comment on, in my opinion, I think the landscaping that is shown would be adequate, and I don't think that, at least I'm not going to recommend going with a living green wall. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I have a couple minor comments in addition, since I think other panel members have covered things I was going to ask. One, you're going to need to submit to staff for approval what your selection is going to be on the trash receptacle. I don't believe, I went back through your presentation, I didn't see that there. So if you could include that and get that to the staff, just so they can look at that. If you could reiterate for me, where exactly is the dumpster?
Yeah, the dumpster is behind on the far westerly side of the project. The access to the dumpster is off Irving Place. There you go, Martha. Up at the top left corner of the site, you see the yellowish hatching, which is indicating some concrete paving, and then the dumpster itself is right in that corner. It's tucked in that corner off the road, about even with the building to the left or to the east. There is the actual location where the dumpster will sit in the enclosure.
Okay, thank you. I have no additional comments. Would any of the panel members like to make a motion?
This is Jennifer from planning. Can I make a statement about our staff report? Maybe that would
Please
help trigger a motion. The purpose of our making a comment about doing something on the garage is we're now back at a second meeting on the garage itself, because we didn't feel like there was enough information initially when this structure was being erected on this site. This parking lot in the rear of the building as it stands right now, Marta, if you could go to one of the perspective pictures of the existing condition, the surface lot is very exposed. And to have a parking deck that's going to be visible from Slade and also coming from the north heading south, you're going to see much of that structure. And so the thought was to try and help it blend in, as opposed to, match the existing building, which, is this gray color. It's not very naturalized. I do appreciate a lot of landscaping has been, or planning appreciates a lot of landscaping has been added to try and screen that garage, but it's going to take a long time for that to fill in. And also, I don't know how painting the garage structure, what kind of maintenance that requires over time. So the thought from planning's perspective was to give it some living planting material, not only from a aesthetic standpoint, but to Ms. Ra's comment as well, to kind of help air quality. So.
Thank you, Jennifer.
So that's just where we were coming from on the green wall. If anybody has any other ideas, or maybe the paint colors is not right. Maybe a more naturalized paint color. I'm seeing a a gray color, maybe more of a tan color to complement.
Sorry, I'm
Oh,
not
you're
sure if
breaking
I'm
up,
coming.
Cecily.
Sorry. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. We had said north, south, and west. We were really just putting the comment in there to get you all discussing about what could be considered. Our staff report, our recommendations to you all. You can, take them in consideration or leave them as they are.
Hey, John, this is Matt. I think it's a good point that being made. I'm not an expert on green walls by any stretch, and I wonder if the concrete and the heat from that and smoking the different orientations, is it really going to be successful? There's planting width here. I wonder if they would consider putting in immediately upon installation taller plant material, and maybe even use arborvitae in the back or Leyland cypress or some taller evergreen that would accomplish the same thing. That would have the immediate effect, green it, screen it better, hide it. Is that something that could be considered? And maybe you're right about the color. A warmer, slightly darker color might be worth. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I wonder how the panel thinks about that.
Sally, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I would have an issue with a green wall. Number one, it's an open garage, so you have these different walls at different heights. It's not like you have screening of some kind, that plant material. The only thing I could think of would be some kind of ivy growing down the wall, and orientation has a lot to do with it, and maintenance. And I don't see maintenance happening to that level on the site. We could certainly look at putting arborvitaes, something taller right away. That's along where I'm showing the euonymus. That's a possibility, but I don't know. I think the trees, once the trees start growing, I could probably use something maybe that gets bigger faster. I don't know. But I'm not, I can't sort of support the green wall. Sorry. I think that would be it's in the end going to look worse than if you just had normal planting on the site.
Hi, this is Cecily. I don't know if I'm coming in or not.
Yeah, you're better.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. I just wanted to, I tried to type in the chat. I agree with Matt's suggestion, larger plant material at the onset, echoed by the landscape architect. I think that's, more suitable and less worrisome from an orientation, maintenance, water, et cetera standpoint. Also, green screens, the expense of them seems a little extraordinary to request. So I think the larger plant materials at the onset and installation might be the better approach. Just my 2 cents. I'm happy with the color matching that gray neutral color to match the building wall with the green in front of it, I think actually will blend in and recede rather than stand out.
This is John. I also agree with Matt and Cecily about the possibility of using larger plant material instead of the green wall. It really wouldn't work on the west wall because the garage below extends underneath. And the actual wall area, I guess from a defensible space standpoint, it's always good. I know the wall is 3'6" high, but it does provide more visibility into the garage. Tree canopies will generally be above the lintel above at some point. When the trees are small, they won't really block view into the garage. So I would be leaning towards the larger tree material that's shown on the plan. If there's no more comments, does someone want to make a motion?
Don't all speak at once.
This is Joe Yusufero. I'd be happy to make a motion. So I move to approve the project conditioned upon the staff report that was generated, with the exception of not installing a green living wall, but installing mature landscape plantings in lieu of young landscape plantings.
Joe, is there a way to better define that? As in LA?
Yeah, I think we need to specify the caliper of the.
Okay, well, I'm not a landscape architect. I don't have that information, but you know, for lack of a better term, bigger versus smaller.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, you can, yes.
Yes, please, Jennifer.
Marta and I are both landscape architects. We could work with the applicant to work out that. If you'd like to specify specifically where you would like to see more mature plantings.
Sure. So I would like to see more mature plantings on, if north is up, on the west side, along the garage.
Along, would you say the north and south?
Well, starting on the left or the west, I'd like to see mature plantings there, but I'd also like to see them along the garage on the top side and the bottom side. So maybe it's north and south.
Okay, so it looks like on the planting plan here that's up on the screen, there are already some evergreen trees, I think, but then there's very little width here. Are those shrubs, Sally?
Yes, the evergreens would be green giant arborvitaes. They would go in at 6 to 7 foot height. The other
That's pretty substantial.
Yeah, the other shrubs up by the dumpster location, I was suggesting leatherleaf viburnums, which grow pretty fast. Again, we can put them in at geez, we could probably put them in 4 or 5 foot height. And it sounds like you want me to switch out the euonymus along the sides of the garage and try to get some, do the arborvitaes there too, rather than the euonymus. But again,
right, so if you did the arborvitae, it would be less plant material, right? You would be
correct. That's correct. That is sort of a problem. But
Well,
I
you could
think
do the
I think-
layering.
I'm sorry?
You could keep the layering effect, you know, just.
Well, to
I'm
get
just
those in
thinking
there,
out loud.
to do that as well as put the trees in, there really isn't that much room. I mean, you need
Yeah,
some. But we, again, I can look at different shrubs. You could get another good one is a skip laurel that grows rapidly. It gets big and is evergreen, so that might be a better choice than the euonymus. And again, you can get that at, I think I could probably get that at a fairly decent size. So in other words, that whole bottom, you have a wall and then it's open. The skip laurels can get 15 feet at least tall. So you would really be screening that out. And I don't know whether you're concerned about a safety factor for people. You know, you might want it a little open. I don't know.
Okay, so back to the comment that Joe was making, and that Jennifer offered with staff's having ability on staff for the landscape. This item will be then going forward will be coordinated between the developer and the staff in terms of.
Well, I don't know if, Matt, did you make that? You were making a motion for a conditional approval? I mean, sorry, Joe.
Jennifer, that's correct. I did make a motion to approve it conditioned upon one, the staff report with the exception of the requiring the developer to provide the green wall, but having the developer work with staff to create a cohesive landscape plan.
I think the other thing that planning staff is struggling with is that this project in effect has been treated as two different projects, and we haven't had an opportunity to see a perspective of the building with this garage and the planting material superimposed from perspectives to see how it would look in reality. I don't know if I could suggest maybe that would help resolve a lot of the concerns, and if that's possible to do. Sally, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
I'm not speaking.
Oh, okay.
I would not be
here that you were.
No, I would not be the one doing a perspective.
Okay.
And I don't know how the developer feels about that. So.
Yeah, Sally, thank you. This is Stu. I'm chiming back in on that issue. We could provide, whatever additional plan items that you would require, Jennifer. We can do that.
I'm just offering that out as
This is Matt. It might help, but I'm not sure it's going to change our thinking here. I'm wondering if we should suggest that they work with staff to select the appropriate plant material, that it would be evergreen, that it would be a minimum of 4 to 5 feet tall installation, which would cover half of the garage. I think we need to keep the trees. I don't think we should put in something that's going to get so large that's going to crowd out the trees. That's my opinion.
Agreed.
Okay, so are you good with that, Joe?
I am, Matt. Yep.
And Joe, I'd like to add a couple items that we discussed. I don't know if your motion was complete, so I want to ask that first.
That was complete in my mind, but please,
Okay.
Cecily, contribute on.
I would like to amend that to add on to investigate the foot candles to make sure that there's adequate lighting. I think it was suggested that no less than 0.5 foot candles, especially on pedestrian ways. and to move the trash receptacles out of the pedestrian way, move those closer to the planters or away from, pedestrian circulation, as well as move the street lights along Reisterstown out of the trees. And I would also suggest there's one that's directly on center with an entry. So shift the light to coordinate with the entries and out of the tree canopies.
I think the purple dots are the trash receptacles, and the yellow dots are the lights.
That's right.
So
and there
where
are
specifically, oh, I see them now.
Yeah, there are two I think the trash receptacles on the top and bottom streets are kind of in the middle of the sidewalks and entry points. And then there's a light on Reisterstown that's directly in front of the center entry doors.
I see it.
So those should be shifted so they're not, they're not within the direct entry exit or on the sidewalk paths, as Matt suggested earlier.
And the light poles should be out of the tree canopy.
Yes.
Before, can I have a suggestion? Can you panel? Can you make the suggestion more directed, easier understand, so that way? Cecily, can you just, like Joe already said, in terms of staff report, exclude the live green wall, and you also added some point. Can you say it again?
Yes, I will try, and I hope my connection's stable enough so that it comes through. If not, someone else can jump in. So the motion amended would read that the project is approved on condition of coordinating with staff on the following items, inclusive of the staff report, with the exception of the requiring a green screen, coordinating on the plant selections to ensure that there's enough screening, that the trees and shrubs are of a large enough size and species to ensure some screening of the garage, to ensure that the minimum foot candle in pedestrian areas is 0.5 foot candles. Correct me if I'm
We lost her.
Sorry, move the trash and lighting receptacles out of the pedestrian ways and tree canopies. Did that come through?
Okay, do we have a
Good
second?
enough. We'll get it.
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, from the panel, is there any discussion? Okay, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you all very much. With that, we'll move on to our second presentation, which is 1630 East Joppa Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the design review panel. This is Tim Catroco. I hope you all can hear and see me okay. Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Demena. I'm here on behalf of Green Clean Auto Wash. It's a new car wash facility coming to Baltimore County. They're new to Baltimore County, but they are very prominent in the state of Virginia. And they have found a couple of sites in Baltimore County that I'm working with them on. And tonight's presentation is at 1630 East Joppa Road. It's the site of the old Hooters restaurant. Green Clean proposes to tear down the old Hooters restaurant. For those of us that are old enough to remember, it used to be called Rascals. It was an old nightclub called Rascals. But that's going to be torn down and a new car wash facility built in its place. I have here with me tonight members of our team, Mr. Craig Van Bremen, He is a principal with Green Clean Auto Wash. He's here this evening. Matt Bishop is going to be doing our presentation. He's with Finley Horn, landscape architect, and Kevin Siskowski is our architect. He'll be here to answer any questions that you might have. So without further delay, as the night is getting long, I would ask Mr. Bishop if you would go ahead and walk us through the presentation, Matt, if you would.
Thank you, Tim. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Good, good. All right. I will be brief. Please stop me if you want me to go into any of these slides in more detail. I'll be happy to do so. And so what we have here is the Green Clean Car Wash at 1630 East Joppa Road. It's about an acre in size, and it's zoned BM with a little sliver of BR, which is more of a drafting error than anything else in the mapping. If Marty, you could move to the next slide, please. Okay, I think everybody's seen this package, so I'll breeze through these quickly. The site is a few hundred feet west of the intersection of Loch Raven Boulevard and Joppa Road in the Towson area. The site is highlighted in orange there. It's in the general area of where the newer Starbucks is and Sonic restaurant across the street, to familiarize everybody. Next slide, please. This is just a vicinity map, gives you a general idea of where we are in relation to the center of Towson. Next slide. Again, just a closer up relationship to 695 and the major thoroughfares. Next slide, please. All right, now this is an aerial photograph that's getting a little closer, showing the existing conditions. This site is 100% paved. It has a vacant restaurant, as Mr. Catroco mentioned, and I believe currently it's being used as temporary parking for some automotive use. Next slide, please. This is a simple bird's eye view from Google Earth, showing you existing conditions. There are 2 access points off of Joppa Road. We intend to keep the access points in generally the same locations. Next slide. This is a view from the east looking west. It's a little strange that it's built up a little bit from the adjacent uses to the north and east. You'll see it better in other photos, but there is a slope off site that's just grassed right now. Next slide, please. Again, looking south, north, and south, the rear of the property. Next slide. And looking west to east. Next, please. And these are street views. Again, it's a pretty barren site at this point in time. Things to point out here is all paved, and there is an existing board-on-board fence along the east and north boundaries of the property, and there is actually overhead utilities on the west boundary as well. Next slide, please. Just another view down the street. Next. This is one of our access points on the eastern end of the property. Next. Okay. This is our black and white plan that we prepared to accompany our application. It just has a general notes. I don't think there's anything too critical to point out here. Next slide. This is our schematic landscape plan and plan rendering. We're going to provide all the landscape required of the landscape manual. As you may have noticed in some of the existing photographs, there are no street trees along Joppa Road. We're proposing new street trees. We will upgrade the sidewalk. The current sidewalk is relatively narrow and not in great shape, so we'll increase the width of that to 5 feet. We'll make a sidewalk connection from our building to the proposed sidewalk. Thank you, Marta. That's great.
Hey, Matt, can I interject here for just a second?
Please do. Yes.
Yeah, members of the panel, you're going to see a secondary access on this site plan. It says future access by others. And just to stave off any questions that are going through your mind about what that is, Councilman Marks, we've been very involved with Councilman Marks on this site, and he asked us if we would provide a means of access to the Days Inn property that's behind this site. The councilman is interested, very interested in seeing something happen with that Days Inn site. And he asked us if we would be kind enough to provide some means of access to that property in case they needed it. So I just wanted to explain to you all that has no access to our property at all. It's to help the future development of the Days Inn property behind us. I just wanted to add that. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Tim. Also, related to access, you will see that our access for the actual car wash is on the western end of the site, utilizing roughly the existing access point there. You'll come into the site, you'll pull right, and then circulation will bring cars into a dual lane. Where you'll pay at a kiosk on the planned northwest corner, and then wrap around into the tunnel of the garage or the car wash. And pull through. It's about a 135-foot building, and then pull out facing Joppa Road, and then pull off the site. We're providing about 20 stacking spaces for the actual car wash, and we're providing 20 on-site parking spaces, each of which will have its own self-service vacuum. And the vacuum equipment is ground-mounted, not roof-mounted. And we'll provide a dumpster in the rear in an enclosure. It won't be very visible, if visible at all, from the public realm. It'll be tucked in to the back of the site and landscaped as well. Okay, next slide, please. So what we have here is a few example perspective renderings. This isn't our site exactly, but it's a similar one that was built recently. It gives you a general idea of the circulation, the materials of the buildings, the landscaping. Yeah, go to the next slide. Thank you. Just another perspective. It shows you the idea of how the vacuums work, and again, how some of the building details are and the materials. Next
Matt,
slide.
can I interject? Just if you look at the vacuum facilities, they don't have separate canisters at each station. It's one central pipe system, so it's not a lot of noise at each parking space. It's a central pipe system that handles the vacuum.
Thank you. Next slide. These are simple elevations showing, again, windows, architectural details. I'll let Kevin go into that a little bit in the next slides. Next slide, please. This is the end of the building where you'd enter. Next slide. This is the side elevation facing west, I believe. Not a tunnel entrance, that's a mislabel. Next slide, please. This is the end of the building exiting. Next slide. And then, Kevin, I turn it over to you if you'd like to talk about any of the details of the architecture. We have some slides about lighting and some slides showing a little more detail on the building materials.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'll talk primarily about the building materials. The block construction that you see in the renderings and the views is it's an EP Henry product. It's don't let the renderings make you think it's like a CMU or a split face block. It's a real nice material. It's got color and texture. And I think in the presentation, maybe page 28 of it kind of shows that material. And then the material you see that looks like wood, that's it's a product called Nichiha. It's a very durable, tough product. It looks really nice. And these renderings nail it as far as what that material looks like. And then the canopies you see, they're constructed of aluminum, so you know there's they're not going to deteriorate or fade in color or anything over time. And then the glass is standard storefront windows, typical what you see in most commercial buildings here. So that's kind of my take on the materials. And then the form, this is just this is our model building, what's been working great for us so far. So I guess I'll leave it at that. If there's any additional questions on architecture, I'm happy to answer them.
Or I know you want us to keep the presentation fairly short, so I think that's all we'll have at this point, and we can answer questions.
Okay. Thank you. Marta, has anyone signed up to speak for this project?
No, we don't have anyone. Brad, Emre, do we have anything in chat?
Okay.
No, Marta, no.
Jen, do we have anyone for chat
No.
window?
Nope.
Thank you. So no, John.
Okay. With that, for comments, we'll start with Mr. Yusufero.
We have a staff report.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Marta, with the staff report.
Thank you, John. He prepared our staff report. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to mute everyone. Is that better? Okay, so we prepared our staff report based on comprehensive manual of development policies, Baltimore County Landscape Manual, and Baltimore County Master Plan 2020. In terms of site design, staff recommends approval of the site design subject to the following conditions. Number one, provide cross sections to demonstrate a relationship with the adjacent properties on the east and west sides and for the connection of the proposed second access to the adjacent property to the northeast. Number two, there is an existing bus stop on East Joppa Road. Coordinate with State Highway Administration and provide improvements for the bus stop, such as a bench and or an enclosure. In regards to architectural design, form, and image, staff recommends approval subject to the following condition. Number one, indicate on the plan if any rooftop equipment is proposed, and if so, clearly label it on the plan and show how the equipment will be screened. In regards to open space and landscape design, staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions. Provide more details for the proposed stormwater management area along East Joppa Road. And number two, indicate if the existing fence along the east side of the west of the property will remain. In regards to streets, parking, and circulation, staff recommends approval of the pedestrian elements subject to the following conditions. Number one, provide details for the existing sidewalk and how it will be improved. Number two, identify the pedestrian crosswalks on the plan with colors and paving materials. And staff recommends approval of the streets, parking, and circulation subject to the following condition. Confirm with the Department of Public Works if the proposed vehicle or entry exit of East Joppa Road should be a right turn only for safety and circulation reasons. If so, wayfinding signage should be provided to discourage left turn vehicle entry from East Joppa Road. And in regards to signage and lighting, staff recommends approval subject to the following recommendations. Provide all the details for the proposed monument sign, indicate all materials, dimensions, and colors. Clearly label all proposed types of light fixtures on the building's elevations. And the last one, provide lighting along East Joppa Road and throughout the site. All proposed lighting shall be labeled on the site and landscape plans. And this concludes our staff report.
Thank you, Marta.
Thank you, John.
Okay, Joe, now we'll start with you.
Okay, good evening. I don't have any comments. I get how these car washes are tricky to lay out. In Baltimore County, you need 20 some stacking spaces, and I think overall from a landscape perspective, a layout perspective, the team did a nice job. So I have no comments.
Thank you, Mr. Renault.
I agree with Joe. I think the only question I had is just probably the popularity of the car wash. I mean, if you've seen the Dunkin', a few neighbors down, tends to get overused and backs up onto Joppa Road. So just if there's any discussion of is the 20 space stacking spaces going to be enough? And then just the other piece is just, if you find yourself pulling in and it's busy and you want to get out, there's not really a way to turn around. So maybe in the future, if that future driveway, if there was a chance to create a connection to the car wash there, so somebody could, sneak out and leave the property without having to back out or do a turn. But other than that, I agree with Joe. I thought the site was pretty well laid out.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ra?
Oh, hi. Good evening. So I think this is probably the most beautiful site plan I've ever seen for a car wash. So I start with that. If you don't mind, Marta, going into the site plan real quick, please. It's just a minor comment. Where you enter from East Joppa Road, there are 2 stop signs for going in and out for the cars, but if you're walking on that road without planning to go into this car wash, then it seems to be slightly tricky right here, depending on what the view is like of the drivers, especially the one that's coming down from the top, if I'm making sense. If you're walking and crossing over. So I just wanted to make sure that there are no safety concerns because of the vegetation blocking the car's view for the pedestrian that might be crossing over here. That was just the only comment. As for, so it's called Green Clean Auto Wash. So does that mean that the wastewater treatment and the chemical usage and so on is responsible?
Craig, are you on the call? Can you respond to that? Craig Van Bremen? If not, I'll take a swing at it. Craig was on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Craig.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So we do the best that we can to be as environmentally friendly as possible. All of our soaps, detergents are all completely biodegradable. We obviously reclaim all of the water that comes off the cars. We do our best to actually reclaim that water, and then we actually use it in portions of our wash that we can. We do upwards of anywhere from like 50 to 80%, just depending on how fast the car wash is running at that time, but we recycle as much water as we possibly can.
Great, thank you. I was gonna, that was gonna be, because it might have space issues as well, depending on if you need to get sludge trucks and things in and out of there. So I have no further questions, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. D'Amico.
All right, just a couple of comments. I understand this is a schematic landscape plan, but probably need to label or at least some indication of what the plant material is and the quantities, even if it is schematic. Is there a temporary treatment for the future access drive, or is that going to be built as part of this project?
We would go ahead and build it as part of this project.
Okay. I noticed a couple locations where it's like ground mounted enterprise signs and a few others. Are those included in this package, what they're going to look like, height, material, whether they're lit, anything like that?
There is a detail in the package, I'm not sure which page it is, of the ground mounted enterprise sign.
Okay, maybe I missed that. Okay.
It's on one of the architect's detail sheets.
Yeah, I think you'll find that on page 23.
There it is.
There it is. And what we do for that, it's the same materials that are used on the building. It's the same block. So, it conforms and it relates to the building.
Okay, I see. So it's 5 feet tall. Okay. I'm assuming that meets the county sign guidelines. I'm not an expert on that. So I do have one question, and I've asked this before for other projects. One of the goals of these older commercial corridors is to start to try to minimize the number of curb cuts all up and down the street to improve flow, to improve access, and to improve pedestrian safety up and down. Have you considered using one curb cut and access point for this as well as the adjacent property, or you absolutely need to have both of them?
Go ahead, Matt.
To provide access to the other parcel, as Councilman requested, we really do need our own separate entrance. It's just going to be, with our operations, having traffic entering and potentially going to that existing site would be difficult.
And I'd add, we don't even know what the other adjacent use might be in the future, so it's kind of hard to commit to having them come through our site, not knowing how much traffic they may generate.
And I believe we have two access points now, Matt. Is that what the Hooters has now?
That's correct, yes. They're basically the western end access point is in the same location. The eastern end, we slid over a little bit to get a little better turning movement for curb radius.
All right. No, I understand. I know part of, like I said, some of the goals of these commercial corridors, like I mentioned, is to begin to minimize that and improve access management, improve circulation, improve safety. So I had to ask it. But yeah, I know you have two of them there already. So, all right. Thanks, John. That's all I have.
Okay, Matt, thank you. Ms. Bedwell. Cecily, do you have any comments?
Thanks. Sorry, I think I froze there for a second. Hopefully I can get through these. I thought one question was the bus stop. In the staff report, it requested to improve the amenities near that with, I think, seat lighting and a connection. So I'm wondering if you can address that, if you are okay with providing that or upgrade.
I think we're okay with providing something. I'm not even sure exactly where the bus stop is, to be honest with you, so we need to evaluate that a little bit closer. I think the comment was a bench or an happy to look at that a little bit more.
Can the staff tell us where the bus stop is?
It's approximately in this location. Can you see my mouse?
We're right in the middle there. Okay.
Right somewhere. here.
Again, we're not opposed to doing something. We'd be happy to work a solution out there to provide some amenity for the bus stop.
Yeah, I think if at the car wash are, need that transportation. So I think it would serve everyone well if that is attended to. I echoed the comment that Matt had about kind of the containment. I always like to see when we can connect to other sites to not have that single circulation to Joppa Road and back out. But I understand the circulation and the queuing for this make it impossible. And I understand that you're working with the council member to connect to the other site. So we'll leave that be. One question I had was that I think can help that is, the continuity of Joppa Road and the pedestrian experience, although you're maintaining those two entry points off Joppa Road. I would like to see the sidewalk material. I think your interior is, the paving is maybe asphalt, I'm not sure. That sidewalk material is probably concrete, but it would be good to continue the sidewalk material across those entry throats, the driveway entry throats into the property to at least continue the pedestrian experience along Joppa and give a cue to the drivers that there are pedestrians crossing at those points. I think that's it. The only, sorry, one last, I think I saw it was noted that the dumpster enclosure was painted cedar. Probably recommend a stain, that instead of paint on cedar, but it's a minor point. I just thought I'd note that as well. And that's the end of my comments, John.
Thank you, Cecily. Does anyone want to make a motion? Okay, in the absence of anyone wanting to make a motion, I will go ahead and make the motion tonight. I move that we approve the project with the following comments. One, the staff report as written will be incorporated into our comments. The developer will work with the staff relative to the bus stop improvement located between the two entrances, one to our site and to the adjacent site. That the sidewalk material be extended across the entrance drives as noted by Cecily. And I believe that incorporates the relevant comments from the panel. Do we have a second?
John, the only, if the panel agrees, the only other suggestion was to label the plant material on the planting plan.
I agree with that.
And just for clarification, Jennifer, won't they have to get an approved landscape plan through planning?
It doesn't come through planning. It's part of the development plan review that is done by the county landscape architect, which is Jim Herman, but we can work with him on the landscape plan if needed to coordinate what you all would like to see on that plan and what he needs to review.
If I might also add, we do require a special exception approval for this project, so we'll be providing another schematic landscape plan, Jennifer, to your office as part of that application.
What's the special exception for?
Use.
Oh, really? In the BM?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so whatever is decided here would be suggested to reflect on your special exception plan.
Yes, we would incorporate all of our revisions to address the comments.
Okay. So did I answer your question, John?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to move that I will amend my motion to add that the specifications for the type of landscape materials will be provided and coordinated between planning and the formal county landscape review. Do we have
Hi,
a second?
oh, sorry, this is Hyun. I'm sorry to drag this out, but Jennifer, you said that there's a special use exception permit that also needs to be granted, and
They're
that
filing a zoning petition that has to go before an administrative law judge for a hearing for
okay,
a special exception use,
okay,
or a special exception hearing for the use of the car wash on this site because of the zoning classification.
okay, and planning will be involved in that as well, or no?
Planning does review that petition as well.
Okay,
Typically, you know, it's kind of a chicken egg thing. Sometimes they'll come in for the zoning petition first, and we will delay comment on that until they've come to the DRP. But they followed what I would recommend to be the proper procedure. They've come to you all first for their review, so that then we can make a favorable comment on the special exception hearing.
okay. I would just like to note that had I known about the exception, the request for exception, and I realize that this is for the design panel, but I would have liked to know more about the wastewater treatment and the stormwater management on the site, because I think it's really important, especially for this area of Baltimore County. So if you could note that and bring that up as a point at the appropriate meeting, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
I will, and as follow-up, they will have to address that at the review of the development plan through the county reviewing agencies. So DPW will, and environmental protection will be reviewing for those treatments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I had asked for a second. Do we have a second?
A second
John,
motion also, thank you.
Cecily, okay.
All right, so we'll take that as Hyan Rob making the second.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Thank you all very much for your presentation tonight. Very nicely prepared. With that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr.
Have a
Chair.
good night.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.